My name is Phil Hoon. I'm an attorney in Chestertown. I have an office on Cross Street. I live in the Quaker Neck area part of Kent County at the end of Walnut Point Road. My middle name is Wilmer. I was born here in the 50s. Never lived here full time, but spent a lot of summers here all my life until my wife Lisa and I moved here in 1982. The Wilmers were early, wouldn't call them settlers, but they were early citizens of Kent County. One of them was a man named Simon Wilmer, for whom we're very proud because in 1707 he gave the land upon which the town is now located to create the town. So he owned what's now...
What was the name of the town, I'm sorry?
Chestertown.
Oh, okay.
But there was no town at that point. He owned Stepney Manor.
Okay, that's what I wanted to
So he and some friends got together, and there's a nice bend of the river. I mean, this is family lore, I don't know it for sure. But he owned Stepney and lived at Stepney and was ultimately buried there. And he gave the land to the town. The town was created. He was involved with the founding of St. Paul's Church. So if you go to the church, there's a slab on the right-hand side of which he and Michael Miller and some other, about 12 men, white men as it always would be then. And so the Wilmers stayed in this area to date. And I'm the most recent one who's living here. My sons are, but they're not living here full time, so I guess I am. My grandfather was my mother's father, was named Phil Wilmer, and he was mayor of Chestertown for many years. He was a distinguished guy. He also was president and co-founder of the manufacturing plant, the explosive plant that blew up in the 50s. So that was a real, that was before I was here, but I'm told that that was a real life changer for him because of the loss in life and the injuries that occurred. And Chestertown just has these wonderful people really at every level of society, I think. And I know there's some stresses and challenges, certainly today with the economy being what it was. But there's just so many neat, interesting, motivated people here, whether they're related to the hospital, affiliated with the hospital or the college or the downtown. It's just been remarkable for me, the people, you know, and it seems like every month I meet someone new who's found Chestertown, and one of the really, not pleasure, because I don't want to think of myself as an old guy yet, but it's really a pleasure for me to see someone who has just found Chestertown, like they were the first one to find it. And to see their enthusiasm, which is the same enthusiasm I mean, I spent a lot of time here, but so many of us, you know, why did you come here? And whether it's serendipity of driving through town, or a friend told me, or I saw a magazine, an article in Preservation magazine, who knows? But it's just the most, and I think this is reflected in the other people you've interviewed, and hopefully some more. It's just this magical place because of its people, but also because of its physical nature, because it's on a river, because it has a hospital, because it has a college, because it has a diversity that's pretty real. I mean, you know, if you walk on the street, it's terrific, and it's not rarefied like would say some communities maybe in Talbot County are, and they're wonderful places. I do work there, and I know people there, and they're terrific. But it's what the French call je ne sais quoi about Chestertown that is so rich for those people who experience it. Every time we travel, we try to travel because I think it's fun and it's neat. And whether you go to Europe or California or the South or New England, it's pretty great to keep coming back here. And you know, I brought a lot of friends here over time, guys I went to college with and high school with, and they all say the same thing. I have one friend who has a big job with a major medical instruments company and doing really well, and great friend. But he had come here in the late 70s with me a lot. And we talk about it. I said, wow, look at your career and everything you've done and your successes in every way. He says, yeah, but he said, look what you have. He said, you live in Chestertown, where the rest of us plan to retire to, but we can't because we have, so I'm really, really, really fortunate. And, you know, my timing was right coming here. I have a practice, so I could practice it. It's, practice of law is always practicing. You never really fully get it, I guess. But I was fortunate because I could do that. Doctors and lawyers can. There's no question that not every kid who grows up in Chestertown can return to Chestertown right away because there aren't the employment opportunities, but there aren't the employment opportunities by definition because it's a small town, in my view. So it's kind of circular, but the doors of Chestertown are open to everybody as far as I'm concerned. The one thing that I think we have to be careful of, and I'm happy that a lot of the leaders in the preservation movement, including people like Chris Havmeyer, was the de-gentrification or the gentrification of the community as it was. And there was a segment of town, Cannon Street from the Blue Heron down, that was very down on its luck. I mean, it had been a great community in the mid-19th century and maybe even earlier. But there are a lot of people who are less privileged who are living there in less than ideal circumstances. In some cases, pretty appalling circumstances. So as the interest came in the 80s to start fixing up those buildings, there was some relocation of the people who were living there, whether it was up Cannon Street or to other parts of the community. And I can't, you know, maybe I'm embarrassed to say I don't know exactly where, other than to say that I think the, you know, the housing up on High Street that's just been rebuilt and really looks beautiful, I think. You know, some of those things also arose while this gentrification was occurring. So I think we've maintained the heterogeneity of the community because there are people of all walks in life. And, you know, for instance, I go to Oxford, and it's a wonderful town, but it's become, and I hope this isn't viewed as negatively because I do think it's wonderful, but it's pretty homogenous there. And Chestertown's not. Chestertown isn't. And that's not to say, you know, I would be troubled if I thought that my experience is universal. I'd not be troubled, I'd be totally wrong to think that my great Chestertown experience is universal. Because there are people that are struggling, have been, and continue to be. And what I think is important for those of us who have the good fortune is to reflect upon it, appreciate it, share it, and also pinch yourselves and remember that it's not everybody's so fortunate. And to that extent, try to be aware of the challenges and help others. You know, I mean, society is stratified, so there's those that are very poor, and there's what they call the middle class, whatever. But, you know, what I'm particularly interested in at the moment, in terms of how the national economy is manifested in a small town, and I must say, I like the president, I like his team, but if they think this recession's over, they ought to come to a town like Chestertown, because it's not. And a lot of these small builders and craftsmen who were really doing great in the 90s and the early 80s, I mean the 90s and the early 2000s, they're struggling. I mean, they're living on savings, and builders who were building houses are now renovating family rooms, and that's okay. But there's no question that the stresses are here, and we experience the same ones everyone else does. So Chestertown, it's unique and it's wonderful, but it's not perfect. And if we ever think that it's perfect, then we've missed it.